muscles is an important chapter in your general anatomy when compared to other chapters. So in this video we are going to discuss the important topics from this chapter, and let's start. So the first topic is functions of muscles. No one is going to ask about the function of muscles because they already know that you know the functions of muscle, except this function that is a little bit different, like heat production. So keep this function in your mind. Now move toward the second topic, that is types of muscular tissue. It's super easy and you already know. Don't waste your time on doing this, but give it a read if you want to give it a read. Okay, I have created a video on this topic if you want to go deeper in this topic, so I will share the link of that video in the description. Okay, now next is our skeletal muscles. Here 3 points are important. One is the diameter of the other is the length, that is 25 millimeter. The diameter is 10 to 100 micrometer. And let me tell you, you have a muscle that is composed of bundles of muscle fibers. Muscle fibers is actually a cell, so it's also known as myocyte. Within the sarcoplasm of myocytes you have myofibrils. Okay, the myofibrils, they are composed of thick and thin myofilaments. Thin are known as actin, thick is known as myosin, and their overlapping results in the cross striation that you see along the length of the muscle fibers. So that's it. And you also know the sliding filament model of muscles. So now let's move towards an important topic, that is red, white and intermediate muscle fibers. You have myoglobin, and myoglobin is a protein. It's reddish brown in color. Its structure is similar to hemoglobin, as well as its function is also similar. Its function is that it takes up oxygen from erythrocytes, store it and transport it to the mitochondria. So we have 3 types depending upon the amount of myoglobin that is present in the sarcoplasm. One is the red fibers. So they have 3 alphabets, and white fibers, they have 5 alphabets, which means that the red, they are of smaller diameter as compared to white, which are larger diameter. Okay, red, its color is red because of the abundant myoglobin, and myoglobin and mitochondria both starts with M, so when myoglobin is abundant, mitochondria is also going to be numerous. So white fibers, they have less myoglobin and less mitochondria. Intermediate fibers, their name indicate that they are intermediate. Okay, now move further. Okay, if a fiber has large number of mitochondria, so that means it's capable for prolonged and steady contraction. So of red fibers, they are also known as slow twitch fibers. Okay, so that means they will predominate in those muscles which are required for prolonged and steady contractions, like the erector spinae muscle of your back, that is required for maintenance of erect posture for long periods. So your red fibers dominate in erector spinae muscle. Okay, then white fibers, they are capable of rapid contractions, so they are also fatigue very quickly, but they are also known as fast twitch fibers, and they will be present in the delicate muscles of eye and hand because they are required for the delicate movements. Okay, they are predominant there. Other muscles are also present, other types of muscles are also present, so one type dominate, and the type that dominates depends on the function that is carried out by that specific muscle. Okay, now next topic, you are going to discuss this topic in a more detail, in a very detailed in your gross anatomy, so for that time skip this topic or give it a read. Next is a classification of skeletal muscles. So we have 2 criteria. One is according to shape and fiber architecture. I have already made a video on this topic, so you can check it. Next is group action. Let's discuss this. So if you want to perform a flexion of your elbow joint, okay, or if you want to let's take an example of extension as it is given in your book. Okay, if you want to perform extension of your elbow joint, then the primary muscle that is actually required for extension is your triceps brachii muscle. Okay, so this muscle, which is the primary muscle for the movement, is known as agonist muscle. Okay, you want to perform extension, and the muscle that is required for the extension is your triceps brachii muscle. So this muscle is known as agonist. Okay, opposite of extension is flexion, and flexion occurs when your brachialis muscle or your biceps brachii muscles, they contract. Okay, so these muscles are known as antagonist muscle. Okay, it's not an intrinsic property of a specific muscle that it's an agonist or it's an antagonist. It's actually the movement that decides which muscle is going to act as an agonist and which muscle is going to act as an antagonist. In this specific example, the triceps is an agonist, whereas brachialis muscle is an antagonist. If I give an example of flexion of elbow joint, then opposite occurs. Okay, so now let's move toward the synergist muscles. Consider you want to make a tight fist. Okay, for making a tight fist, you require the contraction of flexor digitorum superficialis and flexor digitorum profundus. Okay, so muscles or extensor muscle of wrist, they also contract, so that you make a tight fist by the contraction of these flexors muscles. So the extensor muscles of wrist, they act as synergist muscles. Okay, now fixators. Suppose you want to write something or you want to perform a specific movement by your hand. Okay, then you require your arm and your forearm to fixate in some specific position. So the muscles that are required for fixation of your arm and forearm in a specific position, these muscles are known as fixator muscles. So now next topic is our naming of muscles. So the muscle can be named according to their shape, like the deltoid muscle because of its delta or triangular shape. Okay, size of the muscle can also determine its name. Location can also give the name of the muscle, like the tibialis anterior muscle because it's present in front of tibia, so it's known as tibialis anterior. So muscles can also be named by their attachments, action, heads of origin, and direction of fibers. You can understand it by just reading it, so don't waste your time. So next is blood supply of skeletal muscle. Okay, the muscles, they are supplied by the muscular branches of neighboring arteries. Okay, each muscle receives a principal artery which enters the deep surface, and along with the vein and nerve. The ends of the muscle, they are also supplied by accessory arteries, and within the connective tissue framework of the muscle, the artery is going to divide and divide and divide, and then it forms capillaries, and the capillaries, they form networks around the individual muscle cells. So that's it, and you can also understand and read, just give it a read, this anastomosis. Okay, now nerve supply of skeletal muscles. Let's discuss it. So here you actually have two types. One is known as motor nerve fibers and other is your sensory nerve fibers. Your motor nerve fibers, they are three types. One is alpha, gamma, and autonomic. Okay, the alpha fiber motor nerve axons are actually responsible for the contraction of muscles. Okay, they are large myelinating nerve fibers, and you know that there are formations of NMJs in your skeletal muscles, so they are actually responsible for them. Okay, the gamma efferent fibers, these are small myelinating nerve fibers, and they supply the muscle spindles. They actually supply the sensory organs that are present among our muscle fibers. Okay, and the next is our autonomic efferents, and they actually innervate the blood vessels, the smooth muscles are the blood vessels that supply the skeletal muscles. And if we talk about the next category, that are sensory nerve fibers, so there are also three. One are those which originate from sensory organs, one like the muscle spindles and the Golgi tendon organs, and the other are those which actually convey the sensation of pain and other sensations. Okay, so the motor units is actually a motor axon plus the muscle fibers. So it can be small, like 5 to 10 muscle fibers are present that are innervated by a motor axon, or it can be large, like 100 to 1000 muscle fibers are innervated by a single axon. Okay, now next is the contraction of muscles and the tonic contraction. The continuous mild contraction of skeletal muscles is called tonic contraction, and that's important. Actually, whenever we are sitting, we have some actually there is this little bit contraction in our muscles. They are not flaccid, and that the normal degree of contraction tension that is present in muscle is also known as muscle tone or tonus, and it's actually important for the maintenance of our body posture. And next, the willful and active contraction that you want to perform, that are known as phasic contraction. There are further two types: isotonic. It means that the tone of the muscle remains constant, and the other component, that is length of the muscle fibers, it's going to change. The other type is isometric contraction. In this, the length of the muscle fiber is going to remain the same, whereas the tension of the muscle, the tone of the muscle, is going to increase. So the isotonic contraction are further of two types: concentric contraction and eccentric contraction. The concentric contraction is that in which the muscle fiber is going to shorten in length. So when you want to perform the flexion of your elbow joint, then the biceps brachii muscle is going to contract, it's going to shorten in length. And in the eccentric contraction, the contracting muscle is going to increase in length. So when you want to perform flexion, then the triceps brachii muscle is going to undergo the eccentric contraction. Next is the reflexive contraction, and it's actually under the reflex control. So it's controlled by reflexes, like the contraction of your thoraco-abdominal diaphragm. And the contraction of our diaphragm is not under our voluntary control. So it's also given an example of the knee jerk, like whenever we strike a clinical hammer on the tendon of the quadriceps femoris muscle, or there is actually a jerk by the reflexive contraction of the quadriceps muscle. So it's also not under our voluntary control, and it's actually a reflexive response. Next is the muscle paralysis. Here, hemiplegia is when there is complete loss, and paresis is when there is weakness. So hemi, like half side, either left or right. Paraplegia is actually lower limbs or lower trunk. Quadri mean both upper and both lower limbs, they are paralyzed. Hemiparesis mean weakness of one half. So now we have two terms. One is pulled muscle and other is the muscle spasm. Let's understand them. Suppose there is a muscle that is overstretched, and because of overstretching there is rupture of muscle fibers. So this condition is known as pulled muscle. But why it happens? It happens because there is involuntary and violent contraction of the muscles, and this contraction of the muscle, this is known as muscle spasm, and it may be associated with pain and interference with the normal function of the muscle. So this is all about this chapter. Hope you like this video. If you like this video, click on the like button. Thanks, and subscribe to this channel. Thank you so much. We will continue our series of general anatomy in our coming videos. Thank you so much.